Hi everyone, welcome to my presentation about the chimney solar dryer in Guinea and its effect on different socioeconomic groups. I'll be focusing on the Guinean context because I was there just this past summer interviewing a cooperative that received a training on the solar dryer in 2018. So some background on the cooperative: their name is Lawasa. They're located in Guinea, which is a regional capital in Guinea. They are composed of 32 women and 5 men. They have a female president, as you can see in the picture to the right. They were chosen for the training in 2018 because they already had a robust drying business in place. As you can see on the picture to the left, they already were doing their own packaging and labeling. So they had clients in Guinea and Conakry and in other countries in West Africa and even in the US. So the method that they were using is a table with chicken wire on top. So this elevates produce off the ground, which is more hygienic, prevents dust and other dirt from getting on the produce as well. And the traditional method that most people in Guinea use is drying produce on the ground, usually on like a tarp or on a roof. So anyway, they received the solar dryer training. It was 2 days, 2 dryers were built. The first day was about how to build the dryer, and everyone was invited to participate in that, including women. The second day was how to use the dryer. And then the participants of this training were mostly cooperative members and then some community members that were also interested. So 4 years later, what happened to the dryers? As you can see with this picture, this is the site where the 2 dryers were. Basically, what the cooperative explained to me was that the dryers were built in the dry season. Guinea has approximately 6 months of dry season and 6 months of rainy season. They used the dryer consistently until the rainy season, at which point flooding and heavy rains just started to rot the bottom of the drying table, which is wooden. And they said they eventually were forced to scrap the dryers because they were rotting out from the bottom. They did keep the trays and continued to use them to dry produce in the sun, but eventually that screen material started to rust, so they also had to scrap those. So why didn't the dryers work out? They had some pretty some of the main points that they told me. One of the most important things was that they didn't know that the dryers could be modified for weather. A lot of this information is noted in the chimney dryer manual, but that manual is in French, and most of these cooperative members don't speak or read French, so they're not able to access that information. They also said the training was very fast paced and they felt like they didn't obtain all the information, or that information was not given to them because of how fast paced and short the training was. It's also a challenge for women joining the training because 2 full days it's difficult for them to be able to attend the entire thing if they have a lot of household chores to take care of. They also said the trainer brought their own carpenter and their own materials, which limited their own carpenter's ability to understand how to construct and fix the dryer, because he was just watching on the sidelines instead of being the one to construct it. They also said that because they brought their own materials, they really didn't know which ones are locally available, which made it difficult to think about repairing the dryer, because buying materials from Conakry or importing them can become very expensive. And then thinking about barriers created by the technology itself. It needs a pretty significant initial investment. The cooperative didn't have that capital in their bank account to be able to reconstruct the dryers, along with the fact that they weren't really sure how to reconstruct them because of the issues with the manual and that their carpenter and that they didn't have a carpenter who participated in the construction of the dryer. They didn't feel like they could reconstruct the dryers, and they didn't have the funding for it, so they would rely on outside funding and donors, which can be challenging for sure. And then it also creates barriers for people that are in the dry chain business. And as you can see in some of these pictures, like the picture on the right is like the most common way to dry produce on the ground on tarps. People that are already in the dry chain business, they may lose clients to those that people that are building the chimney dryers, because the chimney dryers do allow you to have significantly more product, and the product is a bit higher quality. And then it also could create barriers for people in rural areas, because most of the customers buying these dried goods are business people, hotels. So those are mostly located in urban areas, and low-income people don't have the luxury to really purchase packaged dried goods. So it's a bit more of a luxury to be able to buy those as snacks or whatnot. So the rural people would have more difficult access to these dry chain markets. And then it also requires it requires carpentry to build, which women in Guinea for the most part don't participate in carpentry, and they don't use power tools. So this leaves them relying on men to be able to build and repair the dryers. But finally, they did have some pretty positive things to say about the dryer. The main thing being that especially the women that I talked to, they really liked that the dryer was just required so much less labor than the table method, because the table method, they have to carry these big heavy tables in and out of their storage area each day, as opposed to the chimney dryer, where they just needed to move the trays around every day. So they felt that it was much easier for them in terms of labor, and they also rely on the male cooperative members to move the table. So they felt like this way the women can kind of take over the drying side of the cooperative business, and the men can kind of stick to the farming production side, which tends to be heavier, harder labor. And the women were expressing that they really appreciated not having to do such heavy labor, and they like doing the drying because of that. So thank you so much for listening to my presentation. Hopefully you learned a little bit about the chimney dryer and the dry chain in Guinea, and thank you.